Cool. Yeah. Jackson was just going and kind of sharing a little bit about what he's been up to. Sounds like you're starting to work on a set for a feature. Um, I guess I was curious, like what is that kind of like when you're like on set? Is it like what's that environment like, you know?
So it's interesting.
Hmm.
I mean, I feel like working on a set, especially because it's usually, for uh I mean, this will be the first feature I've worked on, so this will be the longest stretch of time I've worked on any film.
Hmm.
Usually shorts, it's like a day, 1 to 3 days.
Hmm.
And it's just like a mad dash. You work from like super early in the morning until like pretty much really late at night. And there's a lot of standing around while like other
Hmm.
people move stuff around and this kind of thing. It's a lot of like waiting for things to be in place and stuff like this.
Hmm.
But it's cool. I mean, it's like a lot of time that you spend just like chatting with people who are working there. And then also, it's such a like kind of blur after a while.
Hmm.
Like you get done with it and it's like, it was like, it's kind of, it kind of feels like going on like a multi-day like acid trip or like a escalin or something where it's just like
Yeah.
everything is kind of atypical and everything is really intense and everything is really like I don't know, there's just like a whole, whatever thing. It's just and then by the end you're exhausted and you're a little bit like, holy shit, that was like the most exhausting thing I've ever had to do in my life. And then you're
Hmm.
also like, I kind of want to do it again, like immediately.
Hmm.
Um, it's good. I'm gonna be doing like art department and wardrobe department stuff, and
Okay.
I'm gonna be an assistant, which is largely just like probably running around literally doing whatever like things that those people need me to do. Probably won't be a lot of
Yeah.
like actual work on my part to like
Hmm.
design stuff or something, which is good because
Hmm.
I'm not like a visual artist. Um, but yeah, it's an indie feature. It's
Hmm.
based on the director's memoir.
Oh, cool, cool.
It should be. I got the script like late last week. I've been reading it slowly.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. We're gonna go up to like an art farm in like upstate New York and film
Wow.
outdoors every single day for 5 days. It's gonna be a little cold and stuff, but it should
For
be
these
beautiful.
for
Um,
these indie features, I'm just out of my own curiosity. How are they usually like being financed? Is it out of the director's own pocket, or do they have
it's
like
within, I mean,
some back? Hmm.
it's by the nature of something being indie is that there's kind of no one way it happens. It's just
Right, right,
like
right.
in each given case, someone is like trying to figure it out. And so, yeah, it's probably an amount of her own money. She maybe
Hmm.
has raised some money with other people. Um, People go about it in all kinds of ways. People love like an Indiegogo, GoFundMe kind of
Right,
deal,
right, 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 right. Yeah,
especially at
yeah.
least younger,
Uh-huh,
like
uh-huh.
younger filmmakers, student filmmakers that I know. There's always like GoFundMes and stuff for films that they're making.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, there's kind of no one way, but maybe the one thing that you can say is that it's not through like a studio exec or a producer who just
Yeah,
like wants
yeah.
to throw at you.
Right, right. That's cool. Yeah, hopefully you can stay warm while you're working on the
Yeah, no, it
feature.
should be. I hope so too.
Yeah. Any like movies you've watched recently that's been good or that
Um,
I feel like there's a lot that has been
I've
coming
been
out
showing my
too.
roommates a lot of movies recently. I showed
Mm.
my roommate Shoplifters,
Oh no
and
way.
he really
Okay.
loved.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. Mostly news, a little bit of new stuff. I
Hmm.
went and saw the Wild Robot in theaters. That was really, really cute. I went and saw Zoe
Okay.
Kravitz's Blink Twice. That was a
Okay.
movie. Um, I saw Joint Security Area for the first time, the Park Chan-wook movie.
Yeah, 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 the Creed movie, right? Yeah. I haven't
That
seen
might
it
be my
yet.
favorite,
Really?
possibly. Could potentially be my favorite of his.
What about because I haven't watched it yet, but I mean I have I like know the general premise of it, but
Yeah.
what about that movie has like ensconced it in
I
like
think
the realm of a
okay, well, I
favorite?
think when I think of Park Chan-wook, like the other main movies in contention for
Hmm.
like his best movies are my favorite of his, obviously. Old Boy, Maiden, Decision to
Hmm.
Leave, are
Yeah.
the ones I've really seen, and then I probably wouldn't put Stoker up there in that category or anything like that.
Yeah.
Uh, to me, Joint Security Area is just kind of it's the most it's the funniest for one thing I found
Interesting.
interesting,
Uh-huh.
and also the most like kind of meaningful.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Like Old Boy is a great movie and it's really really cool and it's a crazy experience, but like I kind of don't like what is Old Boy about? Like what is the meaning of Old? What's the point of Old Boy other than to show you some like really fucked up shit?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know.
It
Joint
did.
Security Area feels like something with very very like it feels very intentional and it feels like it's really
Mm,
really like there's a very clear intent with what it's doing and what it's trying to explore, but it's also unlike kind of anything I've seen. I think one thing that's really interesting about it is that there's a the whole film is it's Korean film and it's all Korean characters and it takes place like at the DMV or at the
mhm.
DMZ, but there's also a I think this is one of the first, maybe one of the only Korean films I can think of that has like a non-national, like a non-Korean national Korean person, like a Korean diasporic person. There's like a
Like some from
Korean
Sweet.
Swiss person who comes
Yeah,
to
yeah.
investigate as like a
Hmm.
impartial third party the
Hmm.
situation, and her Korean non-Korean kind of nationality plays into the conflict in the film a little bit,
Hmm.
or just like
Hmm.
in the tension in the text.
Hmm.
And I found that really interesting. It's not something that you see in a lot of Korean films. I think in a lot of Korean films, everyone is just Korean, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
That is true. That is true. And I think I kind of like
yeah.
films like that where it sort of stretches like this idea of Koreanness a little bit more than just being like you're either Korean American or like just like
Right.
mainland
Or that
Korean.
you're North Korean or South Korean, you
Right,
know?
right, right,
There's
right.
um, but yeah, no. Oh, it was so good. It was
Yeah.
so. It's so
I
so
will I will
good.
have to put it on my I mean it's been on my watch list for a while and I think I like started watching it. I know my parents really like JSA a lot too.
Mhm.
Um and as someone that's literally been at the DMZ at one point like last year,
Right.
I think it'll hit me even differently. I don't know if I told you but like remember like the freaking
Yeah.
the back of my head made news.
Yes,
Um
I do remember. Oh my gosh.
that was a wild time.
Right, because
Um
you're well, this movie might feel really relevant to you then. That's funny
yeah,
because
yeah.
tourists
Me
at the
too
DMV
watch.
taking photos as part of it. It's like,
Yeah, cool. Well, yeah, sounds like you have some exciting things ahead.
that's been
What about you, Youngguang? What have you been? I actually saw Youngguang like was it like last weekend? I was um I was coming back from Maine with some friends for like a fall break trip and
oh, nice. Where
we
in
had to
Maine were you?
stop. We're in Acadia. They're like a
Oh,
little
hell yeah.
Acadia. Yeah, it was
Awesome.
beautiful. Got an Airbnb, but on the way back, we did not time our rental car drop off well, and we ended up coming back to Boston after the rental car station closed. And
Oh God.
Youngguang came to the rescue by dropping the car off the next day, after we've all went back down to Philly.
Uh,
So thanks for
what a
that. But it was
homie.
also just nice catching up. I feel like I finally did the thing where I saw you, Jackson, in New York, and I saw Youngguang in Boston. So keeping
Mhm.
but we definitely need to do like a in-person meetup, all three of us at one point.
Yeah, we
Um,
do.
yeah, but yeah, Youngguang, what have you been up to? Just fill us in a little bit.
I mean, it's just been mostly just preparing for I got a few conferences coming up, so I got to prepare some presentations for that. That and just doing some dissertation research.
Mhm.
So yeah, meeting Andrew was a really nice break from, staid routines. It, you know, dropping off the car. We
Yeah,
met for good udon in Boston Chinatown,
that was
and
really
Nice.
then
good.
dropping off the car actually led me
Uh-huh.
to another great udon place. So I had two great udons like 2 days in a row. Um, I mean, you know, the Yumeno Arokara place near Harvard is actually a little different from the branch they had next to the car rental place, which was surprising. The car rental place had many more options.
Interesting.
Um, yeah, so a bit more knowledgeable about the eateries around me, which is
Hmm.
always a plus.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, so that's really just been my routine. And plus procrastination. So,
What
uh,
phase are you in your dissertation research? Like, is it like I
I'm in
said,
the early
how's
writing phase. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah. But my committee is very, very hands off. Maybe
Okay.
for maybe to my detriment, but yeah.
Um, and like I'm just because out of my own curiosity, when you do dissertation research, like I'm assuming it's not like you're just Googling it, right? Like, I feel like there's more to it than that. So like
Am I just
what
what?
I'm assuming it's not you just like Googling like your research topic. I'm sure there's like more, I guess, kind of involvement to it. What
I
like
mean,
what
it's a
consists? Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's a glorified form of Googling. I mean, specific more like specialized collections digitally.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And you can work physically, you can work in the archives as well. But
Yeah.
most of my work is like close reading and like conceptual theoretical stuff. Um, so like a lot of it, I'm not the most like hands-on type of researcher or like
Mm,
the basically the ones that, have to travel a lot.
mm.
Um,
Right.
yeah.
Cool. Um, but sounds like that's kind of the state routine that you have. Um, what about like movies you watched or things that you've come up on,
Yeah, I
movies you want
mean,
to watch?
so
Yeah.
yeah, so this has been like a relative lull in terms of movie watching, but I
Oh.
think there has been like events that has, energized, as these lulls usually do when they come to an end.
Hmm.
Um, it really energized my film watching routines again.
Hmm.
It's Hamaguchi came by. I think I told Andrew
Oh
when
yeah,
when you were
yeah.
here. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hamaguchi came by for a Q&A. I didn't realize he was a visiting like in-house artist like
No
a few
way.
years before he made big
Uh-huh.
with like, Wheel of Fortune, Asako, things of that nature. So apparently he had ties to this place. Um,
Oh.
I watched Wheel of Fortune, um, and with a packed crowd, people were laughing to every joke. People were like really reacting,
Hmm.
they were very engaged. Hamaguchi told us he wrote the whole script in a week. Um,
For Wheel of
which is not,
Misfortune.
yeah, he apparently he wrote the whole script in a week.
It
Um,
does it did have like this energy of like Hong Sang-soo a little bit like
yeah, 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 yeah.
when I was reading and when I was watching the movie too I was like this feels in some ways pretty methodical but in some ways very kind of like I don't know if half-assed is the right word but just kind of like I feel like he just wrote it in one go, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it got that light touch to it.
Yeah,
Without
light touch
one of
exactly.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that was like exceptional. And Jackson bringing up, Pro Chan Wook like really also. I mean, it's a real piece of synchronicity because like I watched with some friends, some of whom are not really moviegoers. They responded really well to Thirst, the vampire movie
Oh.
that he yeah, Song Kang-ho. And I think that's sort of my out of left field Park Chan-wook favorite for me.
Mm, I
Like
haven't seen, but on my list for sure.
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, and I'm coming to like I think it really clarified the sort of shape of his filmography, if that makes any sense, in the sense that like we go from like a lot of like hyper violent sort of genre sort of rearticulations like Old Boy, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, things of
Right.
that nature, and it really clarified to me that his recent phase, which I think was kickstarted by Thirst, he's a real high romantic. Like
Mm.
yeah,
Hmm.
he really is like every movie, for all its twists, and turns is really about like a romantic relationship. the
That's
handmaiden
true.
decision to leave.
True.
Um, and with
Yeah.
Thirst, it's yeah, and I think that's part of why I really liked Thirst. It was really like touching by the end. And like some of the set pieces in it were probably the most entertaining in any park movies.
Mhm.
There's one that happens in like in no, you know, to speak generally, there is like it's a closed off room, but it's a house that you've been to many times over the movie, so you know the geography very well and you're familiar with it. And then there is like some sort of like you know violence and death going on, and then the sort of the main characters have to like sort of puzzle things out. I thought that was yeah, it's so it has sort of the pleasures of both phases of his career. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, that was another sort of refresher in terms of you know movie watching. Had a lot of fun.
I've heard a lot of good things about Thirst too. One of my like a really Lee Dong-jin is like a pretty famous
Yeah,
film
yeah, yeah.
critic in Korea. He's talked about this film a lot, and I've also been kind of a blind spot. Um, that that yeah, sounds like JSA and Thirst. Definitely will have to get to it at one point.
Mm,
It's cool. Yeah. I guess on my end, I've I think two maybe big things. I think one is that I am like I guess like one of the co-presidents for a cinema club here at Wharton. And low key, it's like kind of a lot of work. Like it's actually
mm,
like I think that's kind of what like I now like definitely realize what people mean by like, when you make something you like, if you formalize that into more of like a work related thing, it does kind of like add a little bit more like of a stressor to it that might not be always the most fun. Cause like,
mm,
yeah, I'm like definitely like, excited that I get to sort of shape how cinema is viewed and how like I'm able to kind of get people to be more interested in films at Wharton. But it's also kind of like it's a whole ordeal to like try to like get things set up, to try to like
mm, mm,
get people on like get people on board with some of the initiatives, and sending out newsletters is also a lot of work too. So yeah, I mean, Cinema Club, we're a small but mighty club, but I think there's been a lot of exciting things that we've been doing. Like we've actually did a lot of screening so far. We screened Didi. Um, we
mm.
screened this
Nice.
like we did a collab with like India Club and screened Dangal, which is like an Indian like wrestling film that was really cool. Um,
Mm, mm,
what else do we? We're gonna screen Rocky coming up pretty soon in November, like given that it's in Philadelphia, like set in Philly. Um,
Nice.
mm,
yeah, and then it's actually really cool. There's this one guy who joined board who's like very like I think he has very similar like film tastes as me. He's the one who's kind of doing the like he's VP of communication, so he's starting to do newsletters. So I'm phasing out of it a little bit while he kind of takes it on. And one of the things that you do when you're sending out newsletters is like you send the movie recs, and his movie rec was Paris, Texas. And I was like, all right, this guy is like we're talking the same language right now. Um, and yeah, I think he like I was like one of the board apps asks you like what some of your favorite movies are. And his was like Still Walking by Karita, like Tony Erdman, like like Amor. And I was like, oh, like it was kind of cool to see that even at Wharton, like I feel like there's a lot of, I think if you like look sort of more thoroughly, I think there's a lot of people who have these like desires to like watch movies and to be connected to cinema in a deeper way than just going to like the biggest flicks, which is fine, right? But I think it makes me think that like yeah, there's definitely more that like I could do and that we could do as part of Cinema Club to I guess have more like programming available. So yeah, it's been interesting. It's like definitely, I think a lot more work to like lead a club, even if it's like within a school context. And like, I think now that I'm leading it, I think I'm, yeah, wanting to like make sure that they're like, we're able to cater to all the needs of like people at Wharton who like wants to like get more involved in films. Um, we're gonna screen Honora pretty soon. I think that's another kind of thing on the horizon.
Mm.
And would also love to maybe like hear some any like suggestions that you guys might have because like now I think I like am in a place where I can actually implement a lot of them.
Mhm.
So that's one thing that's been keeping me busy. The other thing is I'm taking a screenwriting workshop class this semester, and I have been thinking about like we need to start writing our script, and I've just been really, man, it's fucking hard coming with an idea. It's like so hard. I think I went through like six different like iterations of like what I could write about, and I think I finally landed on a film concept yesterday that I'm pretty excited to write about. I think I want to write about a man in his 30s who, I mean, this is gonna sound very much like it's gonna sound a little predictable, but like whatever. I think I'll enjoy writing it. I want to write about a man who returns to his hometown um because his friend's getting married. And then when he
Mm.
returns, he reconnects with he reconnects with someone he dated in high school who's still
Mm.
living there as like a small town like shop owner. Um, but and as those two reconnect, they start to learn more about the disappearance of one of their friends in high school that has kind of haunted him and has made him feel guilty about never getting closure of like why he disappeared. Um,
Mm.
that's the general idea. We'll see like where I go with that, but I think it
Cool.
definitely like has a lot of elements that I like. Yeah, I guess in writing or like it's in movies. Um, I watched Dazed and Confused in theaters recently because it was a 30th year
Oh, nice.
anniversary, and I took some of my friends and watched it, and they really enjoyed it, which was really awesome. And I actually think watching Dazed and Confused kind of got me thinking a little bit more about how, man, like a lot of these films that I once thought was just like this like very like you're right, like with no structure, just kind of see where it goes, take it as it is, kind of that's what I thought. But when I rewatched it, I realized how structured even films that come off very unstructured,
Hmm.
like Dazed and Confused is. And I think it kind
Yeah.
of made me realize, like, man, like even these movies that I really enjoy that feel really ambling and really meandery are also a very like a product of like a formalized process, right?
Hmm.
Um,
And are crafted to a certain ends, right? Like
for sure, for
with some
sure.
kind yeah.
Yeah. I think that was kind of a cool like light bulb moment. And kind of random too. Have you guys watched this movie Fish Tank? Or do you guys know it? Fish
No,
Tank?
I know of it. It's Andrea something, right? Isn't her name?
Yeah. I think it's like yeah, Andrea Arnold. Yeah.
Andrea Arnold, yes.
This is apparently my screenwriting professor's favorite movie. So I've just been, I guess like
Wow, interesting.
trying to watch that pretty soon. Um, but yeah, I guess that's kind of update on my end. Just it's been like a productive level of busyness with school stuff, but also keeping myself relevant with cinema and things related to it, which is kind of
Mhm.
ironic because I feel like because I have gotten more involved with movie related stuff on campus, I do think I like wasn't able to find as much time to continue with their movie club, which
Yeah.
yeah, I think today maybe it was kind of like I felt like today was kind of a good time to sort of put like a little comma, like a little bit of a break to season two. I think we've had a good run. Um, I've definitely grown a lot in like the past. Has it been like almost 3 years since we've been doing this club.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I guess kind of like I wanted to look like there were really like two things I wanted to cover. Like first thing is a little bit about I'm just kind of curious to hear like what you guys have taken away from meeting like monthly and maybe a little bit about like just overall thoughts on like how you felt this this club like influenced or impacted you, you know?
Uh, I mean, I could start. Yeah, I mean, I can't even believe it's been almost 3 years. I mean, that's for one. Um, it really, it really does. First, this club has been a constant reminder of how quick time passes because we only met like
Hmm.
once a month, but like, I don't know,
Yeah.
those months seem to come back pretty quickly. Um, and I mean, it's just, you don't get a lot of social opportunities to just sit down and have a structured conversation about movies, a lot in real life, even though,
Mm.
even more so than maybe other cinephiles, like we sort of run in like film adjacent circles, right?
Yeah.
Academia, film production, film criticism. Andrew, you're now straight up in a film school, running a film club,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, just to make time, make conscious time. This is just how adults hang out, and yeah, and but the means are by the adults, but it's I think more than anything, this has been like a very important moment of play and rest
Hmm.
for me. I don't think that there was any point Andrew, because you had the brunt work of like uploading, organizing, scheduling and everything, but you might not fully sympathize, but
Yeah.
this has never felt like work to me.
Yeah.
Um um
I mean,
if
look at how pretty the slides are, right? Obviously, I'm putting in a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
effort into making
Like
these.
you hire a graphic designer for this? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I hired a consultant, and I had them. Obviously, you can see how. Yeah, no, it was minimal work on my end too.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And I can definitely say it's been an important part of keeping
mhm.
the lulls of film watching kind of away for a good while. I don't think it's any surprise that my most recent lull happened right when we went to unofficial hiatus. Um
Mhm.
so yeah, it's whether the last for the last 3 years, at every moment I was, consciously grateful to this film group. I don't think that's as relevant because it has no most definitely been a big part of my life.
Mhm.
Big part of
Yeah.
just keeping, yeah, a more playful, sort of laid back side of me alive as the work mounts harder more and more. Um,
Mm.
and yeah, and hopefully we, you know, after this comma, once we do come back together, it'll be just as fun, just as
Yeah,
fruitful.
for sure.
Yeah. And now
Yeah.
it gives us something to look forward to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, Dang, that I feel
that's
similarly
be
too. I mean, it's yeah, I mean, I can go briefly too. I feel like, I mean, this was really, well, first of all, I want to thank you guys for just being down with the very random, crazy idea I had one night when I think I just wanted to, I think it was kind of like I wanted to talk movies with some people, and I think a part of me just wanted to, connect people that I know who like movies to each other. Um, did I think that this would go on for like almost 3 years? Definitely not. I thought it might phase out, but I think I was really grateful and thankful to both of you guys for like taking the club seriously in some ways, right? I think there was a certain amount level of like respect and just courtesy we had with each other's time and kind of each other's recommendation. And I feel like that's also been like that's also rooted me too. That like wow, like something that I've kind of suggested is not being taken lightly. And I think there's a lot of kind of inspiration that I was getting from that. So I think yeah, definitely like thank you. Yeah, thank you guys for just being on this ride for sure. And I mean, I think about passage of time too, because I feel like I started this club like really not with any big intention, but just wanted to talk about, just wanted to like have a way to just watch movies and talk about movies afterwards. And for the most part, I mean, 80% of it, I think, like the club really stayed true to that mission statement, if you will. But I think additionally, as a collateral, I feel like I just wanted to like talk to people and learn about their movie taste, but I think I really got to just like learn more about like you guys and just actually just make good friends, right? I feel like in the past 3 years, I quit my job, moved cities, started school, like entirely entered this new phase in my life. Jackson, you graduated, grew out your hair. I feel like if you look at the older videos, your hair is short as hell, you know?
Yeah,
But like, and then you're working on
really.
sets. I guess Youngbang, you're kind of the more like stable, like kind of like the
I
source
guess.
of constancy. Um, and it's kind of amazing too, just thinking about like just how like this club itself has also become like a marker of time in many ways. And that because we recorded a lot of these, we can sort of look back and kind of think about like who we were at this moment in time. But that's been really, really cool for me. And I guess my last thing here would be just I think doing this club has helped me kind of redefine what it means for me to like movies and for me to be like like a student of film or and for me to be somebody who enjoys cinema. I think I guess leading up to this club, I like had a very one-dimensional understanding of like what it means to be like a lover of films in the sense that like I feel like you had to be so engrossed and engaged and like your I thought your life had to be very much like in this kind of cinematic universe to like even have like the credential to say you like movies. But I think I look back and kind of think about how unhealthy that was. And I feel like through the past 3 years, like I feel like I've kind of come to a place where I think my love of films like has become less intense, has
Mm.
become a little bit less obsessive, but at the same time, I think it's just become a lot softer and a lot more tender in ways that I think I'm able to just manage and I'm able to just carry with me like uh like for a longer time. Yeah, sure, I think I do think about this sense of loss I feel in the sense that like maybe that like incredible crazy passion and this like compulsion around films, I feel like it's a little bit it's like no longer. But I think I now have this more controlled, a little bit more like um I guess like a more
Mature,
kind
maybe?
of like a mature, yeah, exactly. Like a maturing sense of relationship that I have to cinema. It's like, yeah. And I think for me to get to this point, I feel like this club has been really important and has been helpful in talking to you guys and hearing you guys like affirm and challenge and just kind of, you know, redefine some of the thoughts that I had about movies we watched or just cinema in general. Um, yeah, it's I guess just a lot of feeling of gratitude, surprise, and I guess excitement for like where else, wherever future will take us, right? Um, man, that sounded like some freaking Academy Award like speech type shit. But I don't know. That's kind of how I feel. Yeah, if there's anything you want to say, Jackson.
Um, Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, thank you for starting this, Andrew. I really like wasn't sure. I remember being like really not sure what to expect when we first started and was a little bit like it's these two guys and I guess we all went to college together, but I don't know
Yeah.
these guys. I'm like I don't know what the vibe is gonna be. I don't know what movies they're into. I don't know like whatever. So I don't think I had like any, I don't think I had any kind of specifically cynical feeling about it when we started, but I think I wasn't, I definitely don't think I imagined we would be here and that I would, feel like I'd developed such a friendship with you guys and like that would have gone on this long. But I'm really grateful for that. And I would just echo like what Andrew said about like everyone being so considerate with our time and like watching these movies and being willing to engage in such like kind of real, very, very serious, kind of deeply engaged engaging deeply with these films. I feel like, I was doing a lot of this in grad school when we started this, and since then have kind of been on my own working and don't always necessarily live with like really, really intense cinephiles or like have a lot of consistent FaceTime anymore in school. And so this has always been a really, really great place for me to go for that. Um, I think on top of that, even like, I'll maybe I can show you this on my letterboxed, you
Mhm.
have a little kind of bar graph. Oh, a video blur. Um, you have a little bar graph kind of
Yeah,
the average ratings that you have. And if you'll
yeah,
notice, like I'm kind of skewed towards like 4 stars. I have the most 4-star reviews of anything, and then
yeah, yeah,
it kind of peters off. But like
yeah.
my average rating is somewhere in like a high three.
Hmm.
I kind of believe that movies are generally good, you might say.
Yeah,
But I think
actually, mine's
also
similar
there's a bit of
too.
a
Hmm.
self-fulfilling prophecy involved in that, where like I think, you know, I watched a lot of movies at Amherst, I watched a lot of movies in grad school, I watched a lot of stuff growing up. I have just I think for a long time and even now still like think I have a very clear sense of what I like.
Hmm.
And I think that's something that I've kind of known for a long time, like
Hmm.
that there are like the kind of movie I like and that at a glance I can tell like if something is something that I'm really gonna like. But um I think in doing this, and I just opened up the list of I have of everything we've watched and like the things I never probably would have gone brought myself to see on my own that
Yeah,
have been so
yeah,
amazing, and that like I totally opened up like my
yeah.
appreciation for films. Like,
Hmm.
um, yeah, no, it's been great. And these are all like I think I've seen a lot of things that I don't think I would have seen, but which I also really, really, really loved.
Yeah.
And which I think have just added to my all around love for cinema and for films and this kind of thing. And I totally owe that to you guys and to this group. So
Hmm.
so I would thank you for that. And again, yeah, just for like coming in every month and like
Hmm.
really taking this on very earnestly. It's been a really great time, and I'm looking forward to coming back whenever we do.
Yeah, yeah. I still remember like I feel like wasn't the first film we watched High and Low?
And
Like
Midnight Cowboy, yeah.
yeah, and I feel
Mhm.
like I think it was that first discussion we had where I guess I got this sense of like, oh wow, like this is working. Or like this feels good. These movies are amazing. And yeah, I feel like I think what I think about I don't think I would have ever had the courage to watch like Videodrome or like
Yeah.
I don't think I even knew Brian De Palma, until like it got brought up. I don't think I would have watched like It's Only the End of the World or maybe I would have gotten around and watched Shortcomings at one point, but like um I think yeah, I also think about how there's one moment that I still remember very vividly that I think was really important. I think something like Jackson, you said in one of our sessions where you kind of said like, oh, maybe this is time for your time that you could use to, because it sounds like for me, like you know exactly what your Goldilocks zone is, and I think you know
Mhm.
exactly what films you like. So maybe it's kind of like a chance for you to try out new cinema and kind of see like what more is out there. And it's such an obvious statement in the long run, but I think that really kind of, yeah, made me think um, that, in many ways I could have been a little bit more sheltered in like the movies that I enjoy watching. And I think this club really had been instrumental in like pushing myself to watch more films that are a little bit outside of my comfort zone, and really enjoying it. So I
I
think
think that's
definitely,
valuable. I think a
hmm,
lot of people, especially now, how like algorithmic and whatever
yeah,
are the content we have available to us is like I think it's very easy for a lot of people to just live in one realm of things that they like and not have
yeah,
to like really push themselves outside of that if you're not super intentional about it. And so, yeah, I'm always grateful for people who love film and are very knowledgeable about film and want to share these things that I would probably never find myself. And that like give me a completely new kind of side of love for cinema that I didn't have before.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, for sure,
mhm.
for sure. Um, well, thank you guys for this tender exchange
Yes.
yeah, I mean 3 years is not a short time. Damn, the time flies so fast. Um, before we switch, I mean, before we like jump either, I did this is just out of my own curiosity. I'm kind of curious to like just get you guys' take on like, okay, like going forward, not just about us in general, but like what do you guys think the future is when it comes to movies, when it comes to the state of it, the way we watch it, the way it's going to be produced, like
Mm.
artificial intelligence, our movie watching behavior, like streaming services. Like, I mean, these are all big questions that I think we're grappling with. Um, but it's cool. I mean, I think there's like also this discourse of like at least at Wharton, there's a huge kind of like people talk about like Gold House a lot and how now there's like this pretty big like Asian American network that makes, Asian American films more seen, like not just in like a viewership sense, but like in like a financing perspective. Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to like now just kind of pick your brains on like, yeah, what do you guys think will happen?
Um, I don't know. I don't have any. I don't have too much of a specific thought, but I will say I think rumors of the death of cinema have been greatly exaggerated, is where I would
Hmm.
begin. Um, I think there will always be people who want great movies. I think there will always be people who want to make great movies. I think there will
Hmm.
always be people who want to share great movies with other people who also want to experience great movies. And I think
Hmm.
the landscape or the delivery system or the structures around it are definitely subject to change. And like,
Hmm.
I don't, maybe it is localized, not in the monthly Zoom groups you do with your friends rather than like, and whatever else it is, or however we used to do it. But um I don't know. I don't think movies are going anywhere
Hmm.
anyway.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I think it's kind of an exciting moment in that we don't really know where it will go or what will become of it, but I think as long as people want to laugh and cry and connect to people and experience beauty,
Hmm.
we don't have to worry.
Yeah. No, I agree too. I think it's definitely wearing different clothes and be putting on
Mhm.
like different shades that we're used to, but it's movie still movie, right? Um, yeah. Do you have any thoughts, Young Long?
I mean, I'm inclined to agree.
Yeah.
I think it is easy if you just look at this field. I think it is easy to be pessimistic about the future,
Hmm.
partially for good reason, right? Because there are a lot of competing forms of entertainment, and once the pie shrinks, naturally there's going to be less and less support for those things for aspiring artists, and maybe those aspirations won't be nurtured to begin with because many of the talent may or may not go elsewhere. Um,
Hmm.
and likewise, I think with like the rise of AI, and the rise of like you know, small screen visual arts, I think
Hmm.
sort of the adventure that those things provide, I think those can be a tad exaggerated almost as compensation for the
Hmm.
pessimism we face in the future. Um, but even with all that being said, I think as Jackson said, art has a way of just surviving. Maybe it's
Hmm.
probably because people have a way of just surviving no matter what happens. It's a very hardy, you know, it's a very hardy thing we've made over the years. Um,
Yeah.
and just as I think, literature has survived far,
Hmm.
far greater sort of challenges in the 20th century and in the 21st. I don't see why film, particularly in the form it is now, won't survive. I don't even think it's going to be necessarily, unbelievably mutated. If anything, sort of the classical big screen pleasure maybe it won't
Hmm.
find as a big audience as it did in the 20th century. Maybe it won't be the
Hmm.
most dominant cultural form as it
Hmm.
did in the 20th century, but it'll still attract um, people who pursue that pleasure with intentionality, with rigor, with
Hmm.
and people who are willing to make Zoom calls with their friends about and discuss films.
Yeah.
Those are the kinds of little pockets of our culture that will keep film even in its weakest sort of version alive, I think.
Yeah.
You're
And
keeping you
yeah, like,
you
sorry.
watching this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you,
exactly.
you, you,
The viewers.
right here, you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't think the diminished scale in which cinema may or may not operate in the future is something to
Hmm.
be feared. I don't think fear really factors into anything, and I
Hmm.
hope people who watch films and make films will continue to sort of have that courage and have that confidence as they go
Hmm.
about things.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I think there's always going to be like a reaction to every like action or change that happens to like, whatever trend or world we live through. And I think in many ways, I feel like setting up this club was kind of a like my own form of reaction or like kind of resistance to like not wanting to like almost like give in to this general kind of like negative message around cinema dying and things like that. Um, so yeah, I feel like I also I think I feel like this year has also been a sense of like restoration of hope for me in the sense that people are still interested in movies. Movies are relevant, and maybe it's in a different form, but like I think it's kind of up to us to continue to safeguard it and
Mm.
make it relevant. Also, just like one like small side note, Younggwa calling Reels and TikTok videos small screen visual arts is probably the most like apt euphemism I've heard
Very
in my life.
diplomatic of you.
Very diplomatic. Small screen visual arts. That's so funny.
Hey, I mean, by technicality.
It is true. Um, and I think on mine, I agree with all this too. I think something for me that's been on my mind a lot is I guess like twofold. Like I think movies, like this act of going to the movies, watching a movie and sitting and like living in that screen for, 1.5, 2 hours, inherently is not a social activity if you think about it. It's a very like, even if you're watching with friends, it's kind of it's an act of solitude, right? You're just, you're not really talking in the movies. You're not really like chit-chatting. You're kind of the whole purpose of watching movies to like really stew in like the screen and to really stew in your own solitude and then just go live in that world for a little bit to come back, right? Um,
Mm.
so on one hand, in my head, in my mind, it's like it's kind of it's not inherently and inherently it's not a uh social activity, but I think there's also this other energy of movies being a very social activity where you like screen it together. Right now we're doing this very social thing. You go to the movies together, you dress up, you can dress up as movie characters, you talk about it. Um, and I don't know, I guess I've just been thinking about what is kind of how do we position films as like do we should films stay like asocial and be in the realm of kind of an independent activity, or do we lean
Mm.
more into like the sociability of like movie going and movie watching? And maybe there is like a nice middle ground for it. But I think when I think about the future of cinema, I feel like that question like looms in my mind even more, of how we kind of position that active movie watching. Yeah, which I guess like there's no like hard and fast answer to it. Mhm.
I think in my
Um,
mind, movie, going to the movie, watching a movie is not always the most actively social in the sense that you're not talking or like getting to know someone in like a really direct way. But I do think there is something more kind of like essentially connective beneath the surface, and whether that is just like that we share in like a cultural milieu about like, oh yeah, I can quote this movie to you and that means something, and like we share this kind of like language around it, but also like um I mean, I think about watching films, for film festivals and programming films for film festivals, and one thing that I just had a meeting for Brooklyn Film Festival again this week, and
mhm,
one thing that I wasn't even, it was interesting because this thought just kind of came out of me. It wasn't something that I'd thought about very specifically before I was asked, just like, what do you do like when you go
mhm,
about programming? Like, do you have any thoughts? And I'm like, for me, screening films is so interesting because when you're screening films for a festival or you're screening submissions, you're usually doing it alone. I'm alone. I'm in my room. I'm watching it on my laptop or on TV, and it's just
mhm,
me by myself, and seeing what I think. And but but now a year after having actually put together some of these programs and then seen them in their screening spaces with these big film festival audiences, and a lot of the people there are the filmmakers and the crew and their families and their friends who are there to support them and love them and want to support their work and whatever. um I have to remind myself, and I remember that like you're also programming movies for a collective experience, like
mhm,
the there's an innate appeal, and there's an innate, I don't know, something. There's a
mhm,
quality to
mhm,
watching something silently among other people, also sitting silently. And maybe they're gasping and laughing, and someone's like, "Oh hell no," like shouting at the
mhm.
TV, but like
Yeah, yeah,
maybe it's also dead quiet. But there is still like, I think, and this is more like kind of philosophical or like soft theoretical of like, I think being in a dark room, sharing in that, all kind of bathing in that light together,
yeah,
even if there are no words exchanged or glances exchanged or anything like this, there is like we all we were all together in this dream for a moment, we
yeah,
were all
yeah,
dreaming for a moment, and that's what it's about for me. That's what it's about at its most basic, essential, visceral for me, is that like we
yeah,
are here, and like even if we are not directly engaging in like a measurable way,
yeah,
we're like aligned psychically for an
yeah,
hour and a
yeah,
half,
yeah.
you know?
Mm.
Align psychically and align temporally too, right? Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think about that a lot too. It's like, hey, like, man, our lives are so busy. Like our times will never align, like mine, Jackson, like Youngwang's. But it's like in the time when you're watching a movie together, it's like that like what like my time has overlapped with your time and has overlapped with everybody else that's in the theaters. And that's kind of that's a miracle. I feel like it's like a miracle in like to just have a time in which like one time is able to unify every like small every small like individual time that's in that dark room together. Um, and yeah, maybe like that in itself is already like pretty social. Um, cool. Well, I think that was a nice, poignant way to kind of end this part of the discussion. And before we sign off, because I do need to go run to TA this class. Um, this in the spirit of our movie club, I think we should do a small, I don't know, like maybe give a few movie recs for each other, for whoever might be tuning into for all
For you.
two viewers that we might have. Um, yeah, maybe any movie recs from anything you watched recently or um from before that might be worthwhile sharing. I think it will be helpful for me because we're going on break. At least for me, I'm going on break this week, so I think I'll have a little bit more time to watch movies too.
I mean, I think mine have already sort of been said. Thirst, and right before, we went on break, the two movies, the double
Right.
feature that brought up Only Angels Have Wings and Confusion, Confusion.
I
Um,
am gonna get to that.
yeah, three great movies about love,
Mm,
and about sort of the madness of it and the folly of it, and
Mm.
ultimately the necessity of it. Yeah, I mean, a little else I can add that the movies won't say for themselves. So, uh, yeah, highly rec, highly rec.
Right. Yeah, yeah. We'll definitely keep that. I did start watching Confusion, but I also think it's one of these are films that I think require not only time but also just attention. Um, I will, yeah. I'm excited to get on them as well. Um, what about you, Jackson? If there's any.
I guess I'll rehash Joint Security Area. Um, so good.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, I kind of said most of that at the beginning.
Right.
Um, what else? What have I seen recently? No, 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 no.
Yeah, I'm
I
also looking through
rewatched
my. Mhm.
After Yang. It's on Prime right
Mm,
now, Prime Video. After Yang is splendid. I really enjoyed it. It was really nice while I was sick, just like a very kind of cozy, comforting, quiet movie. Really
yeah.
beautiful. And what else? Um, I'll throw this on because I liked it. I thought it was cute. I think it's kind of funny to share here on a Zoom call movie discussion club. But I recently saw Me, You, and Everyone We Know. I think it's by Miranda July.
Mm,
It's
Hmm.
funny. It's very quirky.
Hmm. Wait,
It's very
yeah.
cute. I've been thinking a lot just about like the kind of interconnectedness of different people and our networks and this kind of thing, just for a creative project of my own. But she's really, really funny. There's this great line that I quoted in my letterbox review that's like, there's a curator in a museum and she's looking at submitted pieces and she's like, what does this tell us about digital culture? And then she opens it up and the first thing is like, it's like, I don't even remember what it is, but they look at it for a second, they're like, I don't think this tells us anything about digital culture. And then the kind of continues to play out, and there are some really funny, kind of odd reflections on digital culture that I really appreciated. Including the most bizarre and hilarious conversation over like AOL chat room I've ever seen in a movie. But yeah, that was good. Those are the ones I'd probably give.
Yeah, I already really like I like the film poster. Something about that pink in the background. I feel like it kind of accentuates its quirkiness a little bit. Um,
Very, very quirky, very like, indie thousands indie quirky.
yeah, it's got like a 500 Days of Summer energy a little bit, or at
Mm-hmm.
least from the cover. Um, Dang, yeah. Well, I guess on my end, I think I feel like this film definitely, you know, has stood the test of time. I think now that I have watched it a second time, I think it definitely, I mean, I think it's not just a high school film, but I feel like I think it's also just a really great film and like film about like how to get all these cast members to become friends, you know? Um, I like this movie a lot. I actually watched another one is I watched All of Us Strangers. I don't know if you guys had the chance to
Yeah.
watch that. Andrew, is it Hey? Um
Hi.
yeah, this was a really good movie. I think it kind of kind of gave me this energy of like a ghost story that I really liked. But I yeah, I feel like it definitely hit a certain emotional chord as I was watching it. Um, and I'll probably leave it with those two. I think those are really. I want to recommend Fish Tank, but since I haven't watched it yet, I'm gonna just leave it out. But yeah, those I think yeah, these will be the movie recs, and yeah, I guess that's kind of the man. Look at we're at 68 slides. Isn't it crazy? Our first season two
That's
meeting was
crazy.
January 24th, 2023. So this is a year after we have already met.
Wow.
And man, yeah, this is when you're talking about your thesis.
Yeah.
Watch Raging Bull. Wow, a lot of good movies were watched.
Touch of Sin was so sick.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
This was a great movie too. Paper
Eh.
Moon. Yeah. Tuki Buki, I
We
remember
loved
watching
Paper
this.
Moon so much we went and watched another Peter Bogdanovich movie. I remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It was
One of our few repeat directors.
Yeah.
yeah.
I want to
That
go back through actually what we saw and do like some datafication, like what countries
Mm.
movies are from, what years, like the kind of distributions.
when you do it, you should let us know what the
Yeah,
what
yeah,
the
yeah.
what
I'll
the
put
what the
together.
insights were. Oh, I remember
Yeah, yeah.
Naked. I was watching this.
Oh
This
man, yeah.
this was kind of hard to get through. I feel like it, but because I couldn't find one with
They
subtitle.
restored it and we're showing it at Film Forum recently. I hope it
Oh,
means
no
that there's
way.
a restored version available out there soon. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Oh yeah, we're here. They're showing it. That's cool.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Dang, we could have waited a little bit. Man, what else? Oh, I like this movie too. This is
Holiness.
yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Um, Return to Seoul, Playtime. Yeah. Wow. Good movies.
That was the
Last Picture
Bogdanovich
Show.
repeat.
Yeah, yeah.
hmm
Boy and the Heron. Um, I remember I loved this movie, Joyland. And this was like your
This
friend's
movie
film,
was
right?
amazing.
Jackson.
Yeah.
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 I
Uh,
was not ready for how much I would enjoy this movie, and I picked it.
yeah. It like definitely was a testament to like what movies can do that like I think other forms of art can't, in my opinion. I really enjoyed this movie too. Um, The Hunger, I remember watching this. Yeah,
Crazy.
Phantom of the Paradise. A lot of good movies. Wow, very, very, very feeling grateful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Well, I guess this is it for today. I'm gonna stop recording